The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
It's a little crazy today. This is the disgust we've had to deal with here in Fall River over the weekend and what is going on. And it's just amazing when you think about it, because this should not be happening under any circumstance, but it is. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I'll tell you now, it's absolutely disgusting to the nth degree. So, I'm Chip. And he's CJ. That's how infuriating it's making me. Let's clear that.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. It's Monday, and my bandage is getting smaller, so everybody can be, hopefully by next week it'll be off. Yeah, you're right. I mean, not only that, there's an issue here, not only consideration for the people, but consideration, of the city for its taxpayers and its residents. And, it's just, you don't see it. You see this as a total disregard and lack of consideration for people. These mean something to people. These are their relatives. Someone who has passed and if there should be a conscious effort to reach out to these people, and there are some have historical significance. The process isn't followed. We saw a group from the Cambodian community go up and talk about a lack of consideration in handling their issue, and there seems to be an overall lack of consideration for the taxpayer. The only people that get preferential treatment are people who are either campaign contributors or are from Rhode Island in this city.
Well, Chip, before you even go on, I'm going to show you the devastation. That one picture is only one. I'm going to show you the exact devastation, and you're not going to believe it when you see it. So just bear with me a little bit.
And I have had conversations together, and I agree 150% with him. He and I have walked that cemetery. He knows what goes on. We take it out, we put it back. I personally think it's never going to change until once and for all a clean sweep is made, and we cannot do that with 4 men. You take it out, they put it back. You take this section out, it goes back. Most of the complaints I'm receiving now are exactly like Paul, and I agree, because the complaints now that are coming to me are the complaints of we complied and it's not fair. The complaints that are going to someone else or anyone else that are getting complaints, if they're getting them from people that haven't removed those, but don't want to remove their stuff, they may be getting those complaints. I'm not getting the complaints from the people that don't want to remove their stuff, because they know where I stand on that. I think that they need to remove them, because at this point it's only fair. So I don't want it to seem like I haven't spoken with Mr. Santos. He and I have talked.
So there you have it. Yeah. She believes that it all needs to be cleaned up, and that's how she's cleaning it up. Well, that is disgusting. I went out over the weekend to Newport, and I spoke to some people and showed them the photos, who said that these items can't be replaced. They can't be repaired. They're historical. And even to do a reproduction of these would cost, for the smallest, over $200, and it still would not look like the original. But this is what the park Nazis have done. And I reference them in that way very affectionately, obviously. These items have been destroyed. And you saw some of them were tagged with, prohibited item. removed by order of the Parks and Cemetery. You know what? My opinion, and again, it's just my opinion and nobody cares about it, I think that all 4 park board members need to immediately submit their resignations or be terminated, and that Nancy Smith either be terminated or tender her resignation. Her racist behavior towards the Cambodian community, her willful and deliberate acts of vandalism, and that's what this is unbelievable. And I'm going to tell you now, what really infuriates me more than anything else is we don't have enough park workers. We need more people to work. Obviously, you work them like dogs to go destroy these things. And you know what their defense was to a few city councilors? I was only following orders.
The Nuremberg.
The Nuremberg defense.
The Nuremberg defense. The
Yes.
Nazi war criminals all use the same
Exactly.
defense. Yes, that's true.
Okay? So again, this is what we're looking at. Okay? I wrote the weekend flush, and you got a copy there, Chip, and I said very clearly in it, this administration is using, and some people were infuriated. Some people got very upset. He's using the Nazi plan. He is using the Nazi plan. And I even put in the weekend flush and demonstrated it very clearly that this was the plan of the Nazi party.
Yep.
Okay? Joseph Goebbels would be proud.
Well, look, let's make it very, very clear. Everybody gets they get their panties in a knot when people mention Nazis. And
I know.
Let's put things in perspective. The Nazi Party was, in fact, a political party.
It was.
I mean, let's not make it any. There have been, their rise to power was predicated on political strategies that are still used today.
That's right.
And we're not talking about some of the other atrocities that were committed by the Nazi Party. But let's just look at politically how the Nazi Party rose to power. They rose to power preying on the fear and the self-interest of the German public. The nation of Germany was in a financial, it kind of like Fall River. It was like a nation of Fall Riverites. Economically, it was a disaster. It was left in ruins after World War I. And they rose to power by telling a lot of lies, just like we hear now, that putting street lights in areas where your campaign contributors own property is going to fix the city, even though the city can't be fixed until real programs like let's eliminate some of this subsidized housing, not bring more in. We will only turn this city around when we begin to try to go to the state minimum for subsidized housing, not try to have the highest percentage. And we have many, many other issues. And to put lipstick on the pig or to put a paint job on the car without an engine isn't going to fix it. But the Nazi Party rose to power doing the same thing. Hitler got up and said he was going to straighten out the economy, give me absolute power, I will take care of everything, don't worry about it. We're going to have the greatest nation in the world. Does it sound familiar? Our mayor just said we're going to have the greatest city in the world. Well, Mr. Mayor, come on. Get off your hallucinogenics, or put yourself back on the meds. Let's try to get from the bottom somewhere near the middle first. That may not be achievable in my lifetime or my granddaughter's lifetime, the way this city is operated. So let's be realistic. These delusionary promises that we're going to go from 0 to 1,000. This is you're preying on. Frankly, you're hoping people are stupid enough to believe this. And how long do you expect this to take? The greatest city in the country. Well, look, let's just make it a safe city, a good city, and a city that cares about its taxpayers and its people. What
And
happened-
a city that works.
Yeah, and a city that works, because that's where it is. But let's go back to what this is. This is a symptom. The way they did this, and the absolute crap that they're spinning for an excuse. We need more workers? Wait a minute. Did I miss something, CJ? Or did she not say that her complaints are coming from people who are complying? So if the majority of people are complying, why does she need more people? I mean, the Oak Grove Cemetery isn't immense. I mean, it's not that large a cemetery. And they cleaned the entire cemetery with 4 workers at one point in time. So now, because we have some people who are not complying, what is this? Is this the magic sliding compliance rate like with the bags?
Right.
You know, this is a compliance rate that's used for political gain. Let me see some numbers. And then we get past that, which is absolute crap, and let's get to the fact that these are people's property. Some of these people, you know, maybe they didn't get the message, but there should be a conscious effort. And if you're going to get rid of it, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it in an orderly manner. Let's not change something that actually didn't look that bad because they were on grave sites to a big pile of rubble. You know how long that pile of cobblestone was at the water treatment plant? We're just getting rid of it now. That cobblestone was ripped up, what, 30 years ago?
40.
40? All right, I stand corrected. 40. So this is what we did. We made a dump to rather than reach out to the people, rather than try to look at the people's, you know, these people come there, rather than attempt to have some consideration, no consideration for the Cambodians, no consideration for the people, and again, a callous disregard for anybody. You can bet your butt that if it was some connected person that went in front of the park board, they would get any damn thing they wanted. I don't care what it is, because that's the way it works in this city.
Like the Holy Ghost feast?
Why are people getting their streets fixed in the area? Let's look at the people. The same people that couldn't pay their taxes before and now are getting $300,000 to fix the windows in their building that's on a street that we're going to spend millions of dollars renovating. And oh, by the way, one of the major campaign contributors. Really? Let's fix the neighborhoods. Let's fix the problems. Let's get rid of the people who are bringing this city down. That's not being negative. That's just looking for a real solution.
But you know,
not empty promises and hyperbole.
But I gotta cut you off there real quick,
ahead.
Chip, because a couple of things really bothered me about this whole streetscapes and this cemetery issue.
Just a couple?
Just a couple. Number one, and I mean, I can run that whole video. The video runs about 25 minutes just on her defending this position. And some of the park board members said, you know what, we'll close the cemetery down for a week if we have to do that to clean this place up. And then Mr. Santos, and I understand him being upset, you know, he had to remove items from his child's grave, and you know, my heart goes out to him for that, and you know, my sympathies. But you know what? To call it a Mardi Gras down at the Oak Grove Avenue side, you know, I guess some type of party, I don't have the exact quote, you know, that was kind of upsetting. Now, if they were just referring to, you know, because here's what they're saying. Well, it wasn't supposed to be that. It was supposed to be the wire decorations and the fake plants and da-da-da-da. And they've collected them before and they've put them in barrels. The solar lights, etc., etc. Okay, that's fine. And they've been putting them in barrels. The problem is that they stay there, people go there, take them, and they put them back. Well, you know what? Give the people the notice, you remove them, then you get rid of them. But now you've taken it to the nth degree, and you're taking pots, urns, plant boxes that have been in place since the 1800s, and you're destroying them? I have a problem with that. A very severe problem with that. And, you know, this is why she has been effectively referred to as the Pock Nazi. It seems that there are various little department heads who seem to believe that they are the dictator of their department. But, you know, getting back to streetscapes now, because if I focus on the cemetery too much more, they're going to be putting me in it. One of the things that the mayor said, and I'm going to, you know, always remember, I'm going to stick this quote back in your face every time. I want to take these low to moderate income neighborhoods and raise their status. Well, to raise their status, you've got to get rid of the people that live in the neighborhood who are at the low to moderate income level and move people in that are living at a higher level. So where are you going to move them?
And where are you going to get the high-end people that come
Exactly.
from a city that's in this situation?
So I guess we're going to make 5th Street, you know, a bigger ghetto, because that's about the only place you really can move them. So you're creating segregation. I wonder who else did that back in the 1930s and 40s.
The Warsaw Ghetto, one of the most famous.
Exactly. Okay, so again, this is why I compare this whole streetscapes program and this entire administration to the Nazi Party. Because everything they're doing is falling in lockstep, goose step if you like, with the party plan of the 1930s Nazi Party. The promise of growth and development and becoming a world power, which they did. They put people back to work. At the onset of the Nazi Party, there was only, this number should have served as a warning, there was 666,000 workers. That's all, that's where it started with. By the time the Nazi Party had started its plan and they took it to its pivot, 2 million people were working. 2 million people. They touted jobs. And what did they all get? Jobs. They touted infrastructure repairs, buildings, roads, streets, highways. They created the Volkswagen. They created the Volkswagen Company. They nationalized the banks.
The people's car.
The people's car, exactly. So when you start looking at this, and these numbers are not coming out of my backside, okay? I even referenced them, where they came from, who wrote them, who did this. This is him. But I think the major quote, which we have to get from Hitler himself, which I wrote at the end of the Weekend Flush, which I think was very important, is that in 1922, Hitler proclaimed that world history teaches that no person has become great through its economy, but that a person can very well perish thereby. And that's very true. That's a very true statement.
Well, let's look at this. Let's look at this when they. Let's look at this from the beginning. This doesn't work. It's proven.
Right.
It might work. It might work temporarily.
It's a short-term fix.
But the fact is, it's a negative because it's divide and conquer. When you take people and segregate them, you create pockets and you divide and conquer. The old sayings of united we stand, divided we fall. The United States is united, and it's better when it's united. The fact is that you're going to take these poor people out of these neighborhoods. Well, number one, you're not going to get anybody to move in those neighborhoods because the city is not going to change. The only difference is you've created separate little sub-nations. Where are you going to move them? What are you going to do? You're not going to do what Hitler did and try to exterminate them. So they're not going to go away. It's like trying to get rid of sick people by saying we're going to get rid of the best health care plan. Well, those sick people are still going to go in some health care plan and they're going to drive up the costs. It's the same thing with it. Where are these? We encourage these low-income people to come into the city. And some of these low-income people, unfortunately, are criminals.
We created that.
Well, yeah, and we've proven that putting them all together in projects does not work because they're not going to steal from each other. They're going to
There's
go out.
nothing to steal.
They're going to go. Well, there's plenty to steal, but they'll kill each other. But they're going to go out. They're going to leave their little fiefdom that we've created, and go out into the more affluent areas and steal. Because that's what happens.
Right.
Criminals don't steal from people with nothing. They steal from people with something to steal. And not only that, what's wrong with poor people, poor working people? Is there a discrimination against poor working people in the city of Fall River now? Is it only the rich people who give you campaign contributions, or the people from another state who can do you a favor that count? We see all these programs earmarked at only people who are very, very in the 1%. You don't care about what the taxes do to the poor people, the people who are on marginal incomes. Fall River was at its best in the 50s and 60s, when a lot of the mills were working and everybody had a job. Were they all great jobs? No. They were lower middle class, but they all had paychecks. And as we said it a million times on this show, Pleasant Street was a vibrant place. There were stores all along Pleasant Street. There wasn't an empty storefront on Pleasant Street or South Main Street. Every single one of them was occupied, and every single one of them was making money and in business for an extended period. When the jobs went, the stores went. So who do we bring in? People who don't work. It's not going to fix anything. And when you begin to take people out by groups, the poor people, then the kind of poor people, and you stick them in a ghetto, you get the Nehemiah quote, which I was just trying to look up, but I'll paraphrase it because I know the quote fairly well. But when they came for the Christians, I said, when they came for the Catholics, I said nothing because I wasn't a Catholic. When they came for the trade unionists, I said nothing because I wasn't a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I said nothing because I wasn't a Jew. And when they came for me, there was no one left to speak. That is engraved in Boston at Faneuil Hall at the Holocaust Memorial. The next time you're in Boston, if you ever leave your delusionary dream world to go to Boston, walk over to Faneuil Hall and walk toward the Union Oyster House, and that's where, across from the Government Center of Boston, and read Nehemiah's quote on the Holocaust Museum. What that Lutheran minister was saying, when you let other people be victimized because you're not one of them, they will eventually get around to you. And that's what we're doing in Fall River. We're creating an elitist society, a political society, a society of political hacks and people with money who can buy their way in to the club. This city's always been a blue-collar city. We have to rebuild this city by again becoming a blue-collar city. We're not going to be a 22 Bowen, but we can be a working city, a good, proud, blue-collar city, like many were in this country, like Gary, Indiana, of steel fame, and Pittsburgh, cities that were not known for being elitists. They were all hard-working, blue-collar, tough people who grew up and went to work every day and did an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. But those people have been forgotten in this city by this mayor. Maybe he's too young, or he just doesn't care. But the fact is, look at what we're doing. We're putting paint jobs on the cars and lipsticks on the pigs. And ironically, where is all this paint and lipstick going? Find out who owns all these properties. Find out who owns properties in the area. And find out who gets all the CPA money. And I'll turn it back to you after I say, we are going to repeal that CPA because I am going to work my butt off. Because since it's been implemented, the only people who ever get any money are connected people, and we'll release the list.
And as a matter of fact, I spoke with a member of the CPA board, and who has asked to remain anonymous, and stated, we're directed who to give the money to.
What a surprise. I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is that Fall River has created its own problem. We have created a city which caters to the poor, to the destitute, to the alcoholic, to the drug addict, to the wanton, the needy, and the homeless. When we were having a problem back in the 70s, what did we do? We said, come on. We got STAR, an alcohol detox facility. Then they became a narcotic detox facility. Then we brought in other healthcare services. Welfare, food stamps are all big plans that kept coming up. And where do they locate their offices? In cities like Fall River or New Bedford, in the gateway cities. Amazing. So when you create a one-stop shop for all your necessary services so that you can get detoxed and, get your help and your psychiatric help and your medical services and everything else, you know what? You create the problem. And I said it very clearly in my column that you have to look at this objectively. You have to see what we've created and how we've created it. And that's the problem. Nobody wants to look at this objectively because, as we've said how many times, get rid of it, get a whole new government, but leave my guy alone. Well, the problem is your guy is also part of the problem. I don't care how much you love Linda Pereira or Joe Camara or Steve Camara or anyone else. Guess what? They're part of the problem. They vote for these things. They bring them in. Oh, but we have to do something. Yeah, you have to do something. But you have to make sure you're doing what's good for the entire populace, not just for the select few. And that's why Fall River is becoming desolate. People leave here. People who can get good jobs somewhere else do. And when you look at communities, and Fall River, we're having businesses closed right and left. We're all saying, oh, look at Amazon's doing so good. You had the state economic development people down here going to Matuk because they're doing so good. Why are they doing so good? They're charging $400 for a freaking towel, and they're paying 12 cents in piecework. Come on.
Yeah,
come on.
Exactly, and look what they sell. But for Matuk, a longtime maker of high-end bed and bath linen,
right?
And small batch, there's a small batch place on Amazon. And I don't get, because when the Herald News writes some articles, sometimes they're kind of contradictory. It says a new small batch garment maker on Anamont Street growth seems to be certain, comma. So we hesitate.
Yeah, well, that's the one that got all the money from Jason.
Let me finish the sentence, though. Seems to be certain, or at least probable. That's kind of a contradiction, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
If it's certain, it's certain. If it's not, or at least probable.
Right.
That doesn't even, that's kind of a lukewarm thing. Well, maybe it's certain, but then again, maybe it's certain,
Yeah.
but then again, maybe it isn't.
Yeah.
And, that's not the point. If it may come here. But let's see how long they stay in business.
That's it.
See, that's the key.
And that's the business that's got all the money from the mayor. So remember that. In 2 weeks,
the place where he used to have his business?
yes. In 2
So
weeks,
now he doesn't have to pay rent that he didn't pay.
exactly.
Okay, got it.
In 2 weeks, the People's Debate, lifting the cap, question 2, here at BCC, and tomorrow night, another presidential debate. I'm telling you, this world is getting crazy. So remember, you do have to have tickets to get into the presidential debate, and I look forward to seeing you there in 2 weeks. Please be sure to check it out at question2.eventbrite.com. Have a great day. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Stay angry. Boycott Oak Grove Cemetery. Don't die.
The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the